All my life, I believed that my father died when I was less than a year old. That's what Mom said. That's what relatives repeated. That's what I got used to thinking. My childhood wasn't terrible or happy, just quiet. We lived together with Mom in a small house on the outskirts, old, creaky, with peeling paint on the windows and the smell of freshly brewed coffee in the mornings. Mom was strict but kind. She worked as a nurse, often came home late, tired, but still smiled when she saw me. Of my father I had only one image, a black and white photograph in a frame on the dresser, a man in uniform with a confident gaze and a slight smile. Mom said he was brave and kind, and that he died saving people. I didn't ask questions. I was a child, and if Mom said so, it must be true. But even a child senses when something's off. There were moments when Mom talked about him and suddenly fell silent. Her eyes filled with tears, but not from grief, from guilt. I noticed it but didn't understand. Back then, it seemed like just sorrow. When I was about 8, I asked, "Mom, how did Dad die?" She froze for a second, as if the words stuck in her throat. Then she forced out, "An accident," and immediately changed the subject. At that moment, I felt for the first time she was hiding something. Years passed. I got used to the absence of a father, but inside there was always an emptiness. In school, when kids talked about their dads, I stayed silent. When someone asked, "Where's yours?" I replied shortly, "Dead." People nodded sympathetically, and I felt like I was betraying something, even though I was saying what I believed. On my 9th birthday, Mom gave me a watch. "It belonged to your father," she said, and I took it in my hands with my heart skipping a beat. Old silver with an engraving on the back, "Until we meet again, D." "Who's D?" I asked. Mom tensed. "That's his brother," and quickly added, "He died with him." It seemed strange to me then, but I didn't argue. I just accepted the watch as a memory. But now I know. From that moment the lie began to crack. When I turned 10, we moved. Mom said there were too many memories in the old house. New city, new school, new life. But you can't run from the past. The father's photo moved with us. The watch lay in a drawer, and at night I still thought about him. One day, when Mom was at work, I went looking for batteries for the remote and accidentally opened an old box. There were letters inside. Yellow, folded in half, neatly tied with a ribbon. On the envelopes the same name, Daniel Hayes. And in the TIF field, my mother's name. I didn't know who it was, but a feeling pierced me. This was him, my father. I wanted to read at least one letter, but footsteps at the door made me throw everything back. When Mom entered, I stood with the remote in my hands, pretending I was just looking for batteries. She looked at the box, then at me. "What were you looking for?" "Nothing, just—" I started, but she already understood. Her face paled, her eyes filled with panic. She approached, grabbed the box, clutched it to her chest, and whispered, "Never touch this, understand?" I nodded. But from that day, the questions in my head wouldn't let me rest. Adolescence only intensified it. Mom still said that Dad died, but evaded any details. When I tried to ask, she got irritated. "Alex, why do you need this? You can't bring back the past." But I have the right to know who he was. He was who he was, that's all. Sometimes I heard her talking on the phone at night. Quietly, tensely, almost whispering. Sometimes she cried. One time I heard, "No, he doesn't know anything, and he won't as long as I'm alive." Those words I remembered forever. In school I was angry, at the whole world, at my mother, at the non-existent father. Teachers complained that I was withdrawn, hot-tempered. Friends tried not to ask about family. I hated every "where's your dad?" because I couldn't answer truthfully. Mom tried to be good, but a wall formed between us. We could have dinner in silence, watch TV without saying a word. I felt she was afraid of the truth. At 14, I stumbled upon that box again. Now deliberately. Mom had gone on a night shift, and I, trembling, untied the ribbon. The letters were old but neatly written. The handwriting confident, even. The first letter began, "Mia, I miss you and our son. I don't understand why you don't respond. I came last week, but you didn't open. Please, at least let me know you're okay. Our son. He was writing about me." I read another one. "I still keep that photo where he's sleeping in my arms. He's probably big now. Don't let him think I abandoned you." My hands shook. The world seemed to stop. My father was alive. And everything Mom had told me for 14 years was a lie. When Mom returned, I sat in the kitchen, holding the letters in front of me. She froze in the doorway, saw what I was holding, and quietly exhaled, as if everything inside her collapsed. "Where did you get that? Why did you lie to me?" "Alex, he's alive, he wrote to you, he wanted to see me. Why? Why did you say he died?" She sat across from me, covered her face with her hands, and cried. But these weren't tears of grief. This was remorse. "You don't understand," she whispered. "It wasn't that simple." "Then explain." "I can't. Can't or won't." She raised her eyes. There was so much pain in them that I faltered for a second. "I was protecting you, Alex." "From whom? From him? From the truth?" She didn't answer. She only whispered, "Someday you'll understand." I didn't understand. Not then, definitely not. I left, slamming the door, and for the first time in my life I felt I couldn't trust her. The person I thought was my only support turned out to be the one who had built a lie for 25 years. That night I didn't sleep. I read the letters over and over, memorizing every phrase, every word. "He was alive," he wrote. "He searched for us. And Mom did everything so I wouldn't know." Why? What was she hiding? And who was my father really? That night I swore, "I'll find him, no matter what." After that night, something in me broke. The childish faith that Mom was infallible, that she always told the truth, vanished. Now I saw her differently, as a person who lies, hides, fears. And the worst part, I didn't understand why. For a week we barely spoke. I avoided her. She pretended everything was fine. But the atmosphere in the house became so thick you could cut it with a knife. She tried to restore the usual order. Dinner, questions about school, how are things? But every time I saw in her eyes that same thing, fear. Fear that I'd bring up Dad again. And of course I did. "Mom, who is he?" I asked at dinner. She froze with a fork in her hand. "Who?" "My father, the real one." "I've already told you everything." "No, you lied to me." She looked at me as if I'd just shot her. "Alex, enough. We're not talking about this." "Why?" "Because it's none of your business." Those words pierced me. None of my business to know who my father is. I stood up, swept the plate off the table. It shattered on the floor. Mom screamed, and I just exhaled. Then I'll find out myself. From that day, my obsession began. I didn't know where to start, but I felt the truth was close. The letters were my only key. Name Daniel Hayes. I started with the simple, the internet. It was the early 2000s, not much information, but I spent hours in the school library, digging through databases, forums, old newspapers. Nothing. Too common a name, too many years passed. But one day, I stumbled upon an old news article. Fire in house on River Street, man named Daniel Hayes, 28, injured. The date matched roughly when Mom said Dad died. Only the article said he survived. My heart pounded. I printed the article and hid it under my pillow. That evening, I couldn't look at my mother. Every breath, every word of hers sounded like a lie. I wanted to scream, but inside there was only cold. Everything started falling apart. School to hell, friends drifted away. I became irritable, withdrawn. They called me to the school counselor, but I couldn't tell them what was happening. That my father was alive, and Mom had pretended for 20 years that he wasn't. One day, I went back to that drawer with documents where the letters were. Now I was looking for something else, official. And I found it. Birth certificate. Mother's name, Mia Hayes. Father's name, Daniel Hayes. I read it, my hands shaking. Not just a coincidence. It was him. The same man whose letters I read, whose name Mom tried to erase from my life. When Mom came home, I sat on the couch, holding the document in my hands. She saw what I was holding, and her face paled, as if the blood drained instantly. "Alex, why did you keep his last name?" I asked quietly. "If you wanted me not to know, why not just remove it?" "Because," she faltered, "because you still loved him." She looked away. I didn't get an answer, but the silence said more than words. Months passed. Mom became even more withdrawn. Sometimes I heard her lock herself in the bedroom and talk to someone on the phone. I didn't know who, but her voice was anxious. One late night I heard her say, "He's starting to dig. If he finds out, it's over." I froze at the door. "He's starting to dig." She was talking about me. If he finds out, it's over. I didn't sleep until morning. The next day, I went to my school friend Tom. He was a year older, knew computers, and I trusted him like a brother. "Tom, can you help me find someone?" He was surprised but nodded. "Sure, who?" "My father." I showed him the article, the letters, a copy of the certificate. He chuckled. "Sounds like a movie, but let's try." We searched databases, addresses, archives. Nothing specific. But one day he said, "Listen, what if he's in another state? Maybe he changed his name. Or maybe someone made him disappear." Those words stuck in my head. Made him disappear. One day, I decided to ask Mom directly. "Did he leave on his own, or did you kick him out?" She raised her eyes, panic flashing in them. "Alex, I don't want to go back to that. I already know he's alive. I saw his name, I saw the letters. Why are you hiding him?" She was silent for a long time, then quietly said, "Because he's dangerous." I didn't know what to say. "What?" "You don't understand," she whispered. "He did terrible things." I froze. "What things?" "Don't ask." "No, you have to tell me." "Alex," she snapped, "he almost killed someone." I stood there, feeling the world collapse again. "Is that true?" She didn't look me in the eyes. "Yes, that's why I left. I was saving you." I didn't know whether to believe her or not. After everything, how could I? Maybe she was lying again, or maybe she really was protecting me. But doubt had already settled deep. If he was such a monster, why did the letters sound so sincere, with love and pain? Do monsters write, "Tell him I miss him"? At 17, I decided, I need to find out myself. Not through her. Not through rumors. I went to the city where I was born. To the address from one of the old newspapers, River Street. The house had burned down long ago. In its place, a vacant lot. A neighbor, an elderly woman, said, "Yes, I remember the Hayes, good family. He survived then, later moved south somewhere. The boy was fine until they disappeared." "What boy?" I asked. "Well, the son, little one." My heart clenched. "But his wife?" "Oh, Mia, she disappeared first, and he searched for her, searched, then gave up." I stood where my childhood home once was, feeling like time had stopped. Turns out he didn't abandon us. She took me away from him. That evening, I returned home. Mom sat in the kitchen, drinking tea as if nothing happened. I just sat across and said, "I was there." She slowly raised her gaze. "Where?" "On River Street." The teaspoon fell from her hand. "You what?" "I know he didn't abandon us, that you left." "Alex, I—" "Enough," I shouted. "How much longer are you going to lie?" She burst into tears. "I did everything for you." "No, for yourself, so you could feel right." Silence, only the ticking of the clock. Then she whispered, "If you keep looking for him, you'll regret it." This was no longer just fear in her voice. It was a warning. At that moment I realized, behind this story was not just family drama. There was something bigger. Something she couldn't say. I almost stopped talking to her altogether. Moved in with a friend, started working after school, and spent all my free time searching. A couple of months later, I found a new mention of the name Daniel Hayes in a police report from 20 years ago. Assault case. Victim unknown. Accused Daniel Hayes. Case closed. I printed the report, looked at it over and over. There it was, her terrible crime. But why closed? Why no verdict? And most importantly, if he was really dangerous, why in the letters did he beg to at least see his son? "Don't let him think I abandoned you. I'll fix everything, just give me a chance. I'm not who you think I am." Those lines spun in my head. I began to understand. Mom didn't just lie, she rewrote my life. At 18, I packed my things and left. Officially for college. In reality, to be free, start over, and finally get to the truth. Mom cried, begged me to stay. "Alex, you're making a mistake." "No, Mom, you made it 25 years ago." I closed the door behind me and didn't look back. I thought I was leaving only the lies behind. But I didn't know. That's when I started approaching the truth that would change everything. Years passed. I thought I could leave it all behind. After college, I moved to another city, got a job, rented an apartment, ordinary adult life. New people, new habits, silence without constant reproaches, without tense conversations. I rarely called my mother, sometimes on holidays, sometimes just out of politeness. She still lived in the same house, alone. Sometimes her voice had longing, but we both knew. A wall lay between us, and neither dared to break it. Sometimes at night, I still thought about the letters. About the man I never knew, but who might have spent his whole life trying to get me back. About the woman who was ready to lie to erase him. Sometimes I caught myself thinking, what if she really was saving me? What if the truth was too horrible for me to accept? But then I remembered his words, "Tell him I miss him," and everything boiled inside. Almost 20 years had passed since that night, when I first learned my father was alive. I was 35. Life seemed settled, stable job, rented apartment, a girlfriend named Rachel. She was the first I dared to tell even part of this story. "You really never saw him?" she asked one day, as we sat on the balcony with glasses of wine. "No, and never tried to find him." "I tried as a teenager, but everything was against me then." She thought. "And now?" "Now," I chuckled, "now probably too late." Rachel looked at me in a way no one had before. "It's never too late when it comes to the truth." Her words stuck in my head. That night I didn't sleep. I pulled out the old box, the one I'd carried with me all these years. Letters, printouts, birth certificate, newspaper clipping. I sifted through them like relics of the past, and suddenly noticed something I hadn't seen before. On one of the letters, there was a return address. P.O. Box 921, St. Louis, Missouri. I don't know why I hadn't noticed it earlier, probably too angry to see details. Now I felt everything inside come alive. A couple of days later, I took time off. Told Rachel I need to sort out family matters. She understood without words. I went to St. Louis. The city greeted me with gray skies and the smell of rain. I didn't know what to expect, that I'd just arrive, find the P.O. box and what? But an inner voice said, you must. The post office on the corner of 7th Street looked almost like in the archive photo. I went in, showed the woman at the counter the printout. Did you have a box with this number? She frowned. Old address, hold on. After rummaging in the computer, she added, yes, but the owner stopped renting it about 10 years ago. Name? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Daniel Hayes. My heart skipped a beat. Do you have any contact? Sorry, no, we don't keep personal data. I nodded, thanked her, and left. The rain intensified. I stood under the awning, watching drops stream down the asphalt, and suddenly realized I was closer than ever. That evening, I holed up in a motel, pulled out my laptop, and started searching everything I could. Daniel Hayes, St. Louis, Daniel Hayes, Missouri, Daniel Hayes address record. Dozens of matches, but one stood out. Daniel A. Hayes, 59, owner of an auto shop in Missouri. The photo was old, grainy, but in the eyes I recognized him. The same gaze from the photo that stood in our house, only older, tired, but alive. I didn't breathe as I stared at the screen. He's alive. He's still somewhere here. The next morning, I went to the address listed on the site. A small auto shop on the outskirts, old hangar sign, Hayes Auto Service. At the gate stood a man with gray hair, in a grease-stained shirt. I got out of the car, my heart pounding as if it would burst from my chest. Approached closer. Excuse me, are you Daniel Hayes? He turned. His gaze froze on me for a second. Then slowly, as if in slow motion, he took off his glove. Yes, and you? I couldn't force out a word. My chest tightened, throat dry. My name is Alex. The name hung in the air. He looked at me for a long time, then quietly said, Alex. In his eyes was everything, confusion, hope, fear. Alex, son. I nodded. He dropped his tools, stepped toward me, but stopped, as if afraid I'd disappear. Then he just whispered, God, you've grown. We sat in the small office of the shop. He poured me coffee, his hands shaking. I can't believe it's you. For so many years I tried to find something. I was silent, didn't know where to start. He spoke first. She, your mother. I didn't know where you went. I came, searched, but the house was empty. Neighbors said you left without a trace. She said you died, I forced out. He paled. Died. I nodded. I believed my whole life that you were gone, until I found your letters. He covered his face with his hands. Lord, she said he faltered, why? I thought you could tell me. He was silent for a long time, then exhaled. We argued badly, but not because of you, because of one mess I got into. I remembered Mom's words, he did terrible things. Is this about that case, the assault? I asked. He raised his eyes. You know about that? A little. He nodded, thought. It was a mistake. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. He told slowly, as if returning to a nightmare. He worked in the fire department. One night, he was called to a fire where someone died. Then an investigation started. It turned out the fire was arson. And someone pointed to him. First suspicion, then interrogations, rumors, firing. She couldn't take it, he said she didn't want to raise a son next to an arsonist. I tried to explain I was framed, but she left with you. I sat stunned. But you were cleared. Yes, but too late. No one believed and I gave up. He fell silent. We sat in silence, only the dripping water behind the wall audible. I wanted to find you, he said quietly. Wrote, called, went to addresses. Then letters started coming back. I understood she doesn't want me to see you. He looked at me. And now you're here. I nodded. I had to know. He smiled. You know, I dreamed of this day, 25 years. We talked for a long time. About life, work, me, how he lived all this time. He showed photos of his new family, wife, teenage daughter. I felt strange, envy, joy, pain, relief. As if looking at a life that could have been mine, but passed by. When the sun began to set, he said, "Want me to show you something?" We went out behind the shop. There stood an old Ford, covered in dust. "This was your cradle," he chuckled. "Kidding, but you sat in it when you were 2. I had just bought it. We drove to the lake." I ran my hand over the hood. Everything seemed unreal, as if I'd entered someone else's life. Before leaving, I asked, "Why didn't you try to contact us later, when I grew up?" He sighed heavily. "I tried, but every time hit silence. Your mother," he hesitated. "She once told me on the phone to leave you alone, and if I don't stop, she'll report to the police." I felt anger boiling inside. "She told you that?" "Yes, and I believed. Thought maybe you don't want to see me." He looked at me with sadness. "Sorry I didn't fight harder." I nodded. "It's not your fault." When I left, he gave me an envelope. "Here's the address where I live, and something else." Inside in the car, I found an old photo, Mom, him, and me. I was a baby, sitting on his lap. They both smiled. On the back was written, "For our family, forever." That evening, I sat in the motel staring at the photo until my eyes teared up. I realized my whole life was the consequence of one lie. One fear. One decision Mom made 25 years ago. But I didn't know the truth I'd just learned was only half the story. The second half was still waiting. I thought I was ready for anything. After everything I learned about my mother, after all the guesses, letters, and meetings with Daniel, I was sure nothing could truly surprise me anymore. I was wrong. Several weeks passed since our last meeting. Mom stopped talking to me. She avoided even looking, walked around the house like a ghost, silently, cautiously, with downcast eyes. And I couldn't figure out who the traitor was. Sometimes, late at night, I heard her crying in the bathroom. Quietly so I wouldn't hear, but I heard anyway. I wanted to forgive, but I couldn't. Everything I knew about my life turned out to be a lie. One day, Daniel called me. His voice trembled, but he tried to stay calm. "Alex, I need to show you something. Something new. Yes, better if you come today." I didn't ask, just got in the car and went. He lived an hour's drive from the city, in an old house on a hill. The house looked abandoned, like everything around. When I entered, he was waiting, at the table with an envelope in his hands. "This letter," he said, "your mom wrote it to me." "Another one." "No, the last. After it, she disappeared from my life." He unfolded the yellowed sheet and handed it to me. The handwriting was Mom's. I recognized it immediately. "Dan, please don't look for us. It's not safe. I know you're not guilty, but now everything's out of control. If you continue, they'll find you. And then him too. Forgive me." I reread it several times. "They'll find you. It's not safe." "Who are they?" I asked. Daniel just shook his head. "I don't know, but I think it's not just fear. You think someone was pursuing her. Yes, and maybe not just her. We went to the archive of the old police station. Daniel said he'd once tried to find out what happened to Mom after she vanished from his life, but the case was lost. That day we found a box. On it, HAYS, MIA confidential. Dusty, forgotten, but not destroyed. I opened it. Inside, documents, photos, and a copy of an old report. Headline: Incident on Highway 49, 1999. Hijacking, assault, witness disappearance. I read, and a chill ran down my spine. There was my father's name. And my mother's name. According to the report, Dad was a witness in a major fraud case, money laundering and schemes in the hospital where he worked as an accountant. He was going to testify. A week before the trial, they attacked him. He survived. But his wife disappeared, my mother. Only in the police report, it had a different name. Mia Hayes wanted. Not as a victim. As a suspect. This is nonsense, I muttered. She couldn't. Alex, look here. Daniel showed me a photo. Mom younger, smiling, and next to her a man I'd never seen. Not Dad. Caption under the photo: Mia Hayes and Dr. Richard Wells, 1998. Who's this? The same one Dad was going to testify against. The world flipped again. Mom was connected to the man because of whom Dad almost died. I couldn't believe it. So you think I couldn't finish. I think, Daniel said quietly, that she was once drawn into something she couldn't control and maybe tried to protect you. I returned home late. Mom sat in the kitchen in the dark, as if waiting for me. You were with him? She asked, not raising her eyes. Yes. He showed you? Yes, everything. She was silent, then stood, went to the window and said, I knew it would be like this. What, Mom? What would be? That the truth would find you anyway. I couldn't hold back. Then tell me everything. Enough silence. I have the right to know. She turned, and for the first time in forever, I saw how much she'd aged. In her eyes, fear and fatigue. Okay, she said quietly, but after this you might hate me forever. Just tell me. She told everything. 25 years ago, she worked as a nurse in a private clinic. There she met my father, an accountant, honest, kind man. They fell in love, married. I was born. But soon Dad learned the clinic's leadership was laundering money through fake accounts. He gathered evidence and was going to hand it to the police. That's when Mom made a mistake. She told everything to Dr. Wells, a man she trusted. She didn't know he was at the head of the scheme. A week later, they attacked Dad. He survived, but realized the leak came from someone close and suspected her. Mom tried to explain, but it was too late. The case got publicity. Police started investigating. To protect me, she fled. She was accused of complicity. I knew they were watching me, she said, voice trembling. I saw people at the house, cars parked for days. I realized if I stay, they'll find you. And you just disappeared. Yes, I changed my last name. I thought your father died. They told me he didn't survive. Who told you? Those who wanted me to stay silent. She fell silent, then added, I learned he was alive only when you found those letters. I didn't know what to say. I felt anger, pity, horror, all at once. Why didn't you just tell me? Because I was afraid, she whispered. If you started digging, they'd find us. Who are they? She looked at me, and something in her gaze made me go cold. They still exist, Alex, and if you keep searching, they'll find you too. Several days passed. I tried to process everything I'd heard. But inside was a feeling the story wasn't over. Too many coincidences. Too many shadows. I called Daniel, wanted to discuss everything. But no one answered. I went to him. The door was ajar. Inside mess, papers everywhere, table overturned. On the floor, that same envelope. And Daniel himself was gone. I stood in the middle of the room, clutching his letter. On it, a short handwritten note. If you're reading this, it means they've returned. And that's all. I stood in Daniel's house, feeling my heart pounding in my chest. The air smelled of dust and something metallic. On the floor, signs of a struggle. Chair overturned, curtain torn, broken mug on the tile. But the worst, the silence, such that you could hear the light bulb crackling overhead. I picked up the letter, just 5 words. If you're reading this, it means they've returned. I didn't understand. Who are they? And how long had he known this would happen? I went outside. Daniel's car was by the house. Door ajar, keys in the ignition. In the glove compartment, a phone, off. I pressed the button on the screen, one new voicemail. I played it. Daniel's voice, agitated, erratic. Alex, I think they're following me. Don't call here. If something happens to me, look for the folder in the garage. Answers there. Don't trust anyone, even her. Even her. Chills down my spine. He meant Mom. The garage was locked, but the lock gave easily. Inside smelled of gasoline and old wood. I turned on the light and saw a metal box on the shelf. On the lid, case 47. Inside, a folder, recorder, and old camera. I pressed play. Daniel's voice. If someone's listening to this, I didn't make it. In 1999, Mia Hayes disappeared after testifying. But the case was closed, though evidence didn't vanish. The whole scheme went through the Whitebridge Health Fund. Back then, influential people covered them. I thought it was over, but they're active again. He paused. They're looking for her again, Alex. Because she's the only one who knows where the files are hidden that weren't found in the 90s. I turned off the recording. My head buzzed. Files. Hidden evidence. That's why Mom was still in danger. I left the garage when I noticed headlights behind. First one car, then a second. I turned, sped up, but they turned after me. Cold sweat. This isn't coincidence. I reached the nearest gas station, stopped in the light. The cars passed by. Yet the feeling of being watched didn't go away. When I got home, Mom stood by the window. Where were you? She asked quietly. At Daniel's. Alex, you can't go there. Why? Because he's disappeared. Her face paled. What? He's gone, Mom. His house is trashed and in the car this. I put the letter on the table. She took the sheet, her hands shaking. No, can't be. Moms, who are they? She was silent long, then exhaled. The people who set it all up back then. I thought they died or left. But if Daniel's right, they're searching for those documents again. What documents? Copies of financial files. They prove money was laundered through dummy names. Dad hid them. I didn't know where. And you think they believe I know now? She nodded. That's why you couldn't search for him. Suddenly, a knock. Loud, insistent. Mom tensed. Don't move. She went to the door. I peeked out the window. Outside, a black SUV without plates. 2 men in suits, one holding an envelope. Mrs. Hayes, a voice. We're from the Federal Bureau, need to ask a few questions. She didn't open. Show ID. One held a badge to the glass, but even from afar I saw it was fake. Mom paled. Alex through the back door, quick. What? They came not for me, for you. We dashed into the night. Cold air burned the skin. Behind, footsteps and voices. There they are. We ran through the yard, climbed over the fence. Mom tripped, I caught her. Faster. Headlights flashed behind. Shot glass next to us shattered. We reached the woods, hid behind an old shed. Mom breathed heavily, holding her side. "Are you hurt?" "No, just tired." She looked at me, eyes full of despair. "Alex, if something happens to me, find him." "Who?" "Your father. Only he knows where the files are." "Mom, stop. We need to get out of here." "No," she shook her head, "while it's not too late." We reached an old motel on the highway. The room was small, smelling of cigarettes and cheap cleaner. Mom sat on the bed, covered her face with hands. "I'm tired of running, Alex. 25 years. "We'll find Dad," I said. "He'll help." She looked at me as if wanting to say something, but changed her mind. Then quietly said, "Maybe it's too late." "Why?" "Because he's not who he seems either." Those words etched into my mind. "What do you mean?" She fell silent. "When I learned he was alive, I tried to contact him, but he didn't answer. Instead, a week later, I got a letter, unsigned. And what was in it? 'Don't look for me. It's not over.' I opened my mouth but didn't get to say anything. Headlights flashed outside. Mom jumped up. "They found us." I looked out, that same black SUV. They stopped right at the door. Mom pulled a gun from her bag, old, worn. "Mom, are you crazy?" "I won't let them take you." The door burst open. Two rushed in. Shout, scuffle. One knocked me down, Mom shot. Noise, crash, light. I remember someone grabbing my shoulder then. A blow, and everything went dark. I woke in a car. Tied, gagged. Next to me, the same man from the door. He was on the phone. "Yes, the boy's with us. The woman escaped." "What about Hayes?" "Don't know, probably wounded." He noticed I woke. "Sleep, kid, this isn't your war." I tried to break free, but he hit me in the face. The world faded again. I woke in another place. Basement, damp concrete walls. Hands still tied. On the table opposite, folder case 47. Next to it, the same envelope from Daniels. Door opened. A man in a suit entered. Sat across. "Alex," he said calmly, "you have no idea how many people want this story to stay in the past." I was silent. "We're not enemies. Just tell us where your mother is." "I don't know." "You do." He pulled a photo, me with Mom in the motel. "Security cameras. You didn't think you could just vanish." He leaned closer. "Where are the files, Alex?" "What files? I know nothing." He sighed as if truly sorry. "Then you'll join her." He stood, signaled the guard. He pulled a syringe. I realized this was the end. Suddenly, boom. Shot. Lights out. Screams. Glass shattered. I fell with the chair to the floor, barely hid. Door burst open in the doorway, a silhouette. Gray coat, gun in hand. I recognized the voice immediately. "Get up, Alex, quick." It was my father. I didn't know if it was a dream or reality. Boom, light, shadow in the door. And a voice I'd heard only in childhood, muffled, deep, familiar. "Get up, Alex, quick." I raised my head. The man in the coat pulled off the hood. Gray face, wrinkles, beard with gray, but the eyes, the same as in the old photo on Mom's dresser. "Dad." He nodded. "Later, now let's go." He cut my bonds with a knife, and we dashed into the dark corridor. Siren wailed, red lights flashed. "Stay close," he shouted, shooting the door lock. We burst outside. Night wind, smell of gasoline and dust. A few meters away, a black car. He opened the door. "Get in." I got in, still not believing it was real. He started the engine, and we tore off. 10 minutes we drove in silence. I couldn't find words. Finally forced out. "You're alive." "Yes." "All this time." He sighed. "All this time. Why didn't you come for me? Why leave us?" He was silent, then quietly said, "Because if I did, you'd both be dead." We stopped at an old warehouse outside town. He pulled a metal case from the trunk, threw it on the table. "In it is what they're looking for," he said, "these files." I watched as he opened the case. Inside a flash drive, old diskettes, photos, document copies. Everything proving how Whitebridge Health laundered millions through fake accounts. He sat, rubbed his temples. I thought I could expose it and end it, but I was wrong. What happened? When I tried to hand documents to the FBI, someone inside leaked. At night, they came for me. I barely survived. Your mother was accused of complicity. I didn't warn in time. When I got home, you were gone. He fell silent. Then I learned she was alive. But if I went after you, they'd follow her too. I tried to process. And all this time you hid. Worked under another identity. Waited until they activate again. Why now? Why exactly now? Because someone reopened the old case. Leaks started. They thought it was you. Mom and I just wanted the truth. In such stories, truth costs dearly, son. He looked at me, gaze tired, heavy. You look like her, like Mia, stubborn and too brave. Where is she now? I asked. He lowered his eyes. Don't know, but if alive, she'll find us. At that moment, his phone rang. He looked at the screen and paled. It's her. He put on speaker. Mia. Dan. Mother's voice trembled. Is Alex with you? Yes, where are you? Doesn't matter, main thing, listen. They found me, little time. Mia, father's voice hardened. Where are you? Don't come. If they see you together, it's over. I cut in. Mom, where are you? Alex, I love you. Sorry for everything. Connection cut. Dad jumped up. We're going. Where? I know where she is. He tossed the flash drive to me. Keep this, son. If anything, give to the press. Not police, not FBI, only journalists. They're the only ones still trustworthy. We arrived at an abandoned parking lot by an old bridge. Fog, flashing lights. Mom stood by a concrete pillar, wrapped in a coat. When she saw us, her eyes filled with tears. You came anyway. Dad approached her. For several seconds they just stood, looking at each other. 25 years of lies, pain, silence, all between them without words. I thought you died, she said. I wanted you to think that, otherwise they'd find you. And now they have. I stood aside, not knowing what to say. It was like a dream, or a movie ending, where all heroes know they won't get out alive. Mom looked at me. Alex, do you have the flash drive? Yes. Then listen carefully. Go now. No, I won't leave you. No discussion. Dad pulled his gun. Son, no time, they're here. In the distance, engine hum. Headlights, several cars. Run to the car. When I say 3, drive. Dad, I don't. 3. He pushed me. Shot. Bullets hit concrete nearby. I fell, grabbed the ground, then ran. Behind, shouts, fire, noise. I looked back, saw Mom and Dad shooting, hiding behind pillars. A moment and one car exploded. I reached the nearest town, barely holding the wheel. Sirens distant. Hands shaking. I turned on the radio and heard the news. Explosion at abandoned bridge outside town. Police found 2 bodies, identities being established. I turned off the radio. Tears blurred my eyes. For 2 days, I didn't leave the motel. Didn't eat, didn't sleep. Just sat holding the flash drive. On the third day, I decided. Found an investigative journalist, name Dad mentioned. Sent the flash drive, all documents, copy of Daniel's letter. A week later, the story broke. On front pages. Whitebridge scandal, corruption, disappearances, and murders. 25 years of lies. Names, dates, schemes, all. The world finally knew the truth. But truth doesn't come without a price. A month later, I got a letter. No return address. Inside, a photo. Mom and Dad. Alive against some seaside village. On the back note. We're close, just live, son. I didn't know if it was real or not. Maybe fake. Maybe hope. But every morning I open the drawer, look at the photo and think. Maybe lies really can save sometimes.